Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fashion Coffee Hour. I'm Stanley Smith, and I'm here, as always, with Marcy Carmack. In Fashion Coffee Hour, we're always looking at the art and culture and business of fashion, and something that comes into play with all three of those is retailing, visual merchandising, and display. And today we're going to talk about Project Windows, which is a partnership I've been fortunate to work with the Art Institute for over 10 years on facilitating creative window displays downtown. And this year we are taking it to the neighborhoods as well. And I'm excited to have Marcy here today because Marcy is, of course, expert fashion stylist. And a lot of what we're talking about today has to do with fashion. So let me move into the presentation. Marcy, you can tell us a little bit about, what you look for in the styling and presentation of fashion and how it might relate to some of these artists and displays we'll be looking at today.
Great. I'd be happy to.
So as I explained, Project Windows is a partnership with the Art Institute of Chicago and area retailers, restaurants, businesses, hotels. And it's been primarily focused on downtown Chicago, but we are offering it to other participants this year. The theme every year is set by the Art Institute, whatever their blockbuster exhibit is going to be. And this year, they're anticipating that it'll be the presentation of the Obama portraits and the ongoing presentation of these amazing quilts by Bisa Butler.
Now, those are amazing. I mean, yes, all of it's amazing.
But one terrific thing about Project Windows is the opportunity to meet new people. And the people we're going to meet primarily are the artists. So Amy Sherald is the portrait artist who was commissioned in 2018 to paint Michelle Obama. And I think most people are familiar with this painting. And myself, when it first was unveiled, I was a little off put by the gray skin tone. I didn't quite understand what was going on, but as I became more acquainted with the work of Amy Sherald, I realized that was her style. And Marcy, since you're the fashion person, in researching this and talking to other people about this, I found out that Michelle and Amy had discussed that in the first 4 years that Michelle served as First Lady, she tended to wear floral designs more often than not. In the second 4 years, she gravitated toward these more geometric designs. And I know you've been in contact with Ikram here in Chicago, and there's a Chicago connection to Michelle and fashion.
Yes, yes. When does this exhibit open?
The Obama portraits will be unveiled on June 18th.
Oh my, that's coming up.
It is coming up, Marcy. You have to pick out something to wear. And then these are some additional works by Amy Sherald, which are not going to be on display, but it just shows this is her style of showing people with the gray skin tones. And that's somewhat derivative of her looking at black and white photographs. Mm-hmm. So vintage photographs.
And then adding some color.
And she saw that as kind of a way to see the person as to who they are, as opposed to what they are. So the idea of people in action, people in different settings, and their true essence. And that's what she was trying to capture.
I love the gloves.
Isn't that terrific? It's always about the accessories, Marcy. And then Amy Sherald herself, I was so struck by her from a fashion standpoint, because when I first saw her at the unveiling, I thought, oh, she's in a vintage dress or something kind of funky.
When was the unveiling?
In 2018 at the Smithsonian Institution.
Oh, you went there?
No, but thanks to the virtual world, Marcy, I was practically there. But I got a big kick out of, again, as I got to know her, got more acquainted, as in any situation, as you get to know somebody, you appreciate them more and more. And she really does have a quirky fashion sense all of her own.
I would say so. I love the glasses.
Yeah, she's got a real style there.
And the hair too.
Yes, so she's a fun person in her own right. The next person we're meeting is Kende Wiley, who was commissioned to paint the portrait of Mr. Obama, former President Obama. And he's also kind of almost a bigger than life character. And he incorporates some elements of his own art into his wardrobe as well. And he draws from a background of study of art history, how power is presented visually, and how the artist over the history of art history has been commissioned at various times to portray people in power. And most notably, that's in the areas of church and state, who are
He doesn't look like a portrait artist. He looks like a Hollywood star.
Well, I guess you can't tell an artist by his wardrobe, but this is a portrait of Mr. Obama, President Obama, and I think this was much more accessible to most people, just because it seems a little bit more natural, a little bit more traditional and normal, and of course he's rendered in more of a natural presentation.
It's very unique.
It is.
Unique.
It is. And Mr. Wiley apparently has a history of incorporating things from art history, the idea of heraldry and different iconic elements of the gentry and the nobility. And I guess early on there had been some discussion about his interest in maybe portraying Mr. Obama with a crown in the background or a scepter and some other trappings of reigning monarch. And I don't know if it was Michelle or Barack, but they subtly suggested to him that that probably would not be appropriate. So,
well, he still has a chair that looks rather regal.
I do love the chair, Marcy. I do love it because it has kind of a neoclassical Roman, almost Napoleon, Second Empire kind of thing you might see going on. So I do like this. Again, as I got to know him a little bit better, I found out that this is very much in keeping with the style of the rest of his works. And these two additional images I'm showing today they're men, but he has men, children, women, all kinds of different subject matter. Most of his people, just like Amy's, are common people, regular people. And we'll see in a few minutes, Bisa Butler, they paint everyday people, so people they would see. So the way they portray those subjects is the same as they portrayed Michelle and Barack Obama. But this idea of the pattern in the background, and the floral and all the prints, also the idea of the very foreshortened space is a common theme with all three artists we're looking at today.
Foreshortened, what does that mean?
Well, there is really no depth. It's really very flat. So it's
looks
very
like wallpaper.
Yeah, it's very surface oriented. There's not a lot of depth in both Barack's image and Michelle's. There's really no background per se. It's really just a flattening of the image space. And this is Bisa Butler, and she yeah, she's been a real crowd pleaser. She is currently on display at the Art Institute, I think, since January, and she will be there until, I believe, August, or actually September 6th. And so she comes out of a heavily influenced by this school of art thematic called Afrocoba, which comes out of Chicago. It was formulated here in the late 60s by a group of artists and activists who created a vocabulary and a genre that really promote the idea of alternative narrative of Black culture. So they had a particular palette where they eliminated the use of white or mixing. I know Marcy's talked before about different hues in fashion, and that's usually through bringing in white into the color palette. But they removed white, and they also encouraged their artists to start with maybe a black background or a neutral background as opposed to a white background. And they introduced the concept of Kool-Aid colors, which again is the idea of pure colors, vibrant colors, without the use of white. Bisa, I appreciate one of her statements, which was, use what you have. I think oftentimes in anything we're pursuing, we immediately look for the limitations or the barriers and we fixate on those. And her idea was just picking up what is around you and working with that. And another intriguing—
And that's so timely
So timely. I mean, it's ahead of her time, really. And it's very encouraging. It's a very positive message. And also back to fashion, early on in her art study, she studied at Howard, I believe, and she had a number of instructors who were directly out of this Afrocoba school of thought. And she was struggling as a painter, and they were so struck by her. Her instructors were so struck by her presentation of herself. She herself was maybe similar to Amy Sherrod or Kehinde Wiley, very fashionable, layering, textures, kind of idiosyncratic combinations. And they were so struck by her way she wardrobed herself, they suggested that she incorporate that into her art. So she started adding textiles and textural materials, and that eventually led her into the world of quilting, where she was
as I told Stanley, and I'll tell anyone, her work goes beyond quilting. That really does not describe it. It's just amazing.
Well, and then you're absolutely right, Marcy. And here are two examples, which, I, as a novice, I thought, oh, these are photographs, and she glued fabric on them, and that's really very nice. But I was really amazed when I realized that, no, these are images and faces actually created out of fabric that are layered together and then all quilted together, and it's quite amazing. She's working from historical photographs, and many of these are are reproductions of a photograph, but in this quilted material. And she's also working with anonymous people, primarily, just like Amy and Kende are working with.
She hasn't done any commissions.
That's a good question. I don't know,
We'll find
Marcy,
out
but
this
when you're
afternoon.
ready to get your portrait done, we'll give her a ring. This is another work by Bisa Butler. And then this is showing a textile garment in the Dutch oilcloth, which is a really an appropriation of Indonesian batik prints. And these were appropriated by the Dutch, I guess, I think it was actually quite early, 1610, 1700, early. It was a long time ago. And then they introduced it into their colonization of the African continent, where it really became part of the African culture there and continues to be today. I know on Fashion Coffee Hour, we had Nora Gaynor here from the Art Institute, and she was discussing this whole genre with another designer we looked at. I'm forgetting his name. Duru. And the idea of incorporating this into your wardrobe is what crosses the line from appropriation into integration. And I think Marcy suggested that, you know, when you make it your own and incorporate it into your personal style, then it's not appropriation as much as it might be integration. So, but it's a beautiful garment, don't you think?
Absolutely beautiful. Is that at the show? I don't remember that.
No, it's not at the show, but it was a good example of the Dutch oilcloth print that I found. I thought was stunning and inspiring. This is just an example of some early photographs that have been used for inspiration. This is a photo of some people on Easter Sunday on the south side of Chicago from the Vintage Archive, which has been used by Bisa Butler, and we'll see when you see the exhibit, this image reproduced in the quilted medium. And then this is a photograph currently being used by Amy Sherald for a new series she's doing on early American workers. And, you know, it's funny, you can see that, of course, yes, these people are all, they're all gray. And that was interesting to me because I think most of us think that photography is the ultimate form of realism, but we realize that everything is a distraction. Everything is somewhat derivative because these people are not a natural color. They are gray, but we're perceiving that abstraction as reality. And because we're talking about visual merchandising in the context of Project Windows, I thought this was intriguing, the idea of an all gray window, kind of a take up of the photographic image.
Is that Zara?
I don't know. I just dragged it off the internet. It's
okay.
So Google, majesty of Google. And speaking of majesty, I was intrigued also by the legacy that you know, like the Dutch oilcloths being appropriated from Indonesia, and then the idea of Kende Wiley and Amy Sherald, the tradition they're working out of, and the areas for appropriation or integration from the history of art besides the early history of portraiture. The idea of Andy Warhol, who he's done this before. The idea of the celebrity artist painting celebrities, and then the tension between, well, who is a celebrity? Is the artist or the subject matter? So I thought that was a fun thing to keep in mind in the context of all this art. And then even earlier than Andy Warhol was, of course, the works of John Singer Sargent. Both Andy Warhol and Johnny Singer Sargent have been previous themes of Project Windows. And Sargent was interesting to me because we have also been here before with the traveling celebrity portrait. This is a portrait by John Singer Sargent of Carmencita, I believe. And she was a Spanish dancer in the late 1800s. And he painted a number of portraits of her. This one was especially famous and did travel to many, many exhibits around the world, including the Art Institute in its early history. And it was a sensation here in Chicago and attracted crowds of people. In similar manner, I'm sure the Art Institute is hoping that the unveiling of the Obama portraits on June 18th will draw an appropriate number of socially distanced crowds.
I think so. Don't you?
I hope so. The Art Institute will actually have the Obama portraits in the Griffin Court gallery off Griffin Court, and then the Bisa Butler portraits will continue to be on display in the Old Masters wing of the Art Institute on the opposite side. So people will be able to traverse the Art Institute and be socially distanced in the process. But the idea that this portrait continues to be famous, even though this particular dancer and entertainer, her notoriety probably has faded. Also, the famous portrait of Mrs. George Swinton, again, another famous actress in her time. Perhaps her legacy is somewhat forgotten, but her portrait lives on display at the Art Institute of Chicago. And then even before John Singer Sargent, we have the court paintings of Louis XIV and Louis XVI. Again, the heraldry and the draping and the elaborate fabrics. And then the more common person in the genre of Vermeer. Now, since I'm a visual merchandiser, I had to get in some of the origins of visual merchandising, which stem from the Industrial Revolution and Paris, where the introduction of the production of plate glass windows and mass production of textile products created this consumer culture, and the creation of arcades in early Paris to traverse the rather challenging streetscape of Paris, providing a safe and clean passageway for pedestrians. And then it necessitated shops and restaurants and different attractions for those people. And that was really the early precursor.
And is that Galeries Lafayette?
This next slide is Galeries Lafayette. So the arcade was kind of the precursor to the creation of Galeries Lafayette, and the modern department store, which essentially was a number of arcades stacked on top of each other into departments. So this is Galeries Lafayette in Paris, but not to be outdone, of course, at the same time, which is late 1800s. Here in Chicago, we had our own very own Marshall Field on State Street, creating Chicago Institution and the interior light well in the North State Room, a virtual paradise for women, as a ladies' paradise, I think is what it was coined at the time. And of course, they were well noted for their very elaborate window displays at the time, and they continue under Macy's umbrella in that same tradition. Now, some early window displays, which I thought were kind of fun just to include.
Very fun.
This is a picture of a window display in New York City, and I love this because it shows the people outside peering in. So the idea of the pedestrian and the idea of the interaction between the visual presentation and the person passing by. This was kind of a surreal presentation. I believe this was at Bonwit Teller in New York City, and I thought that was kind of fun.
Very cool.
And speaking of surreal, we have the, actually not surreal, pop art, Andy Warhol, also at Bonwit Teller. So Bonwit Teller employed Andy Warhol as a visual merchandiser for a brief time, and he incorporated his very own work. But back to surreal, this is the window display at Macy's on State, which continues the legacy of Marshall Field window display. And this was an entry into Project Windows a number of years back as part of the Magritte exhibit at the Art Institute. And yes, they were inspired to put video screens with a giant eyeball on the mannequin. That was
I love it.
Pretty terrific.
I love those birds too.
So they had it all going there at Macy's on State. And I included these just for inspiration, idea of you can even do a window display out of sticky notes if you're feeling inspired.
Now, I would not have noticed they were sticky notes. Can you go back and let's look at that?
Marcy,
wow.
That's why I'm here. I'm here to help navigate
Yes. Yes.
the visual landscape for you.
That is so
Well, see,
cool.
Marcy, that's why it's such a great partnership here, because I know about visual and you know about fashion. But Marcy, as we take a second look, I'm noticing President Lincoln picture. So
to top that off,
there you go, full circle integration. This is a display at Best Buy a number of years back when we did a show on Roy Lichtenstein. Here we've incorporated a picture of, actually this is a whole series, about 6 or 8 windows incorporating Roy Lichtenstein. Yours? No, they were reproductions from the Art Institute. Some of them were on loan from other area collectors and reproduced in these window displays just for this special integration. And actually this is a display currently for the unveiling of the Obama portraits, which is on display at the Drake.
That is yours.
They're doing a little shout out to the upcoming exhibit. This is a previous exhibit for John Singer Sargent at the Blackstone Hotel. This young lady's peering into some little shadow box throne room-like vignettes, which were actually advertising a John Singer Sargent photo shoot at the Blackstone at the time, which was a fun integration for guests.
Are they involved with the Obama portraits? For some reason, I heard that name.
I don't know that they will be, but they have been a participant for a number of different contests in the past. So we'll see. It's an open opportunity. It sometimes fits better than others. So These are a couple of examples I included. Just I thought that were a good reminder to us to think local, both as a vendor and as a consumer. Again, also just great way to show integration of materials. This is a simple material. They just used this print and covered these risers and then created the same, use the same print to create this message. Just shout out to shop local and be local minded. I mean, we are Chicago and we've got lots to promote and share and be proud of here. And Chicago centric is always a good theme. This is a fun display at Alice and Olivier on Rush Street. Just a very colorful
Right
display.
now?
Right now, Marcy.
That's fabulous.
You can run over there. And
What do you think of the store?
it's nice. I was surprised they moved to a different location, but I think they're happy over on Rush Street. And this is just because some people will be participating at different levels, and some people are already off and running, and some people need some ideas or some noodle points. The idea of a black drop comes out of the idea of the Africoba, maybe starting with a black background. It's pretty much of a standard for a lot of visual merchandisers, but might be new to you. The idea of the Kool-Aid colors, even the theme of Kool-Aid itself is fun. The gray or neutral mannequins, and the idea of using a chair. I mean, chairs are always a fun prop, colorful and useful, and you can put
I guess
merchandise
you're-
on them.
Both Michelle and President Obama are sitting in chairs.
Exactly. Chairs are always, when I was in art school, chairs are always a metaphor for people because they basically look like a person seated and they provide a seat for a person. Just a quick recap, Project Windows, summer 2021. It is 2021, right, Marcy?
Yes, it's hard to
Sometimes
keep
hard to keep
track.
track during the pandemic, but the Obama portraits will be unveiled at the Art Institute on June 18th, and
I'm
they'll be
so
there
excited.
August 15th. And Ibiza Butler, of course, is now on display through September 6th. Well, we're going to be sending out judges on after Thursday, July 15th to take a look at some of these displays and come up with their evaluations. We have a great panel of judges, community leaders, retail experts. A lot of people from Fashion Coffee Hour will be our judges, as they have been for a number of years. So if you're interested in meeting the judges, please feel free to tune in to Fashion Coffee Hour any Monday evening at 6 p.m. We'll be happy to send you the Zoom link. And if anybody is interested in participating in Project Windows or having your fashion wardrobe restyled, please contact myself or Marcy. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
I hope it was quick enough and brief enough and inspiring enough to help you enjoy the summer of art and culture coming our way here in Chicago. And we look forward to seeing you next time on Fashion Coffee Hour. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.